there, buddies. I wanted to go ahead and bring you a frequently asked questions about hearing loss. I get questions all the time, so I thought these answers might be beneficial for some of you out there. According to the Hearing Loss Association of America, there are about 20% of the population have a hearing loss, and that's about 48 million people who report some degree of hearing loss. So we're gonna go ahead and talk all about hearing losses today. A really common question that I get asked a lot is how frequent is a hearing loss in people anyways? So in older adults, ages 65 and up, typically we see about 1 in 3 people will have some form of hearing loss at that age. So it is more common in older adults. However, there's a misconception that it's only older adults who have a hearing loss. I'm here to tell you that young people can get it too. So people in the workforce have hearing loss, and also children, and of course young adults. But for babies, there's about 2 to 3 babies that are born each year that have a hearing loss out of 1,000 babies that are born. And then anyone who is in the school age range, about 15% of those individuals have some degree of a hearing loss. Okay, so a question I get asked like all of the time, I'm not even joking, all the time, is if you have a mild hearing loss, does it matter if you see an audiologist or wear hearing aids? I have a moderate to severe hearing loss, and I obviously can't really function very well without the help of my hearing aids. However, I am here to tell you that if you have a mild loss, you should still see an audiologist about whether or not they think you might need hearing aids and if they'll be beneficial to you. Even if there is a mild loss, there's still a chance that you will actually have trouble in school because of your loss, and sometimes it helps just to sit in the front of the class if you have a mild loss. And also it can cause speech delays and speech impediments, so it's good to go ahead and get it checked out regardless of where you are on the spectrum of hearing loss. Another question I get asked a lot, and this is actually something I think that is very common, is hearing aids. So I'm going to go ahead and do a whole video just on hearing aids, but there's a question that a lot of people ask about: do people wear hearing aids every day, and how do you get used to hearing aids? The answer is yes. If hearing aids are going to help you function every day, then you should use them every day. I use my hearing aids an average of 12.5 hours a day, so pretty much the whole time that I'm awake, and they help me so much that I just need them. If I don't have them, I could tell that I don't have what I call my ears in. The thing that I want to say is it takes a long time to get used to hearing aids. So when I first got hearing aids, I couldn't handle them because I was hearing things that I had not been used to hearing, and it freaked me out. So the thing to remember is that you have to sort of let your brain retrain itself for noises that you aren't used to hearing, and it's still filtering through an amplifier, something that's going to help you hear the sound. So it's not necessarily going to sound the same as what normal people hear. You have to give yourself a couple months, depending of course on the severity of your hearing loss, just adjust to the hearing aids. Do it, it's worth it, I promise. Another thing people are really afraid of is if you wear your hearing aids, you're going to rely on them the rest of your life. I'm here to tell you that there's actually no physical thing that happens to your hearing as a result of wearing aids. So it's not like your hearing is going to get worse if you're wearing the aids. The thing that you have to remember is that wearing your hearing aids is going to help you, so you're more likely to miss your hearing aids if you're not wearing them, but it's not going to cause you to go deaf or cause your hearing to get worse than it already is. Another common question that I get asked, and I actually feel really confident in answering this, is if you get hearing aids later in life, is it going to be harder to adjust? There is obviously going to be a little bit more of an adjustment period, because if you haven't really had hearing aids, then you're not going to be used to them, and it takes getting used to them. It's like anything really in life. If you haven't had it, you have to sort of get used to it. But the thing that I'm here to say is that it doesn't matter how old you are. If you need hearing aids and you notice that it helps you, stick with it, because it will make a difference in your life. It made me have better relationships with people. It gave me more confidence, because you can't hear someone and you're trying to have a conversation. That's a big deal if you're saying what and you're not really hearing it, and you have to sort of strain yourself to listen to that conversation. Even if you feel like, well, it's too late in life, I've had my hearing loss my whole life, I can go without it my whole life. I thought that too. I didn't have hearing aids for years and years and years, but I started noticing that I just became so frustrated in life. I wanted to be able to hear like a normal person. So that is why I decided to go ahead and get them, and it did take me a few months to get used to them, but I'm here to tell you that you're never too old to get them, regardless of how long you've lived with your hearing loss before the hearing aids. Another thing to remember is that there's different types of hearing loss, and I want to just talk about those differences, because a lot of times people ask me what type of hearing loss I have. I have a sensorineural hearing hearing loss. But there is a conductive hearing loss where if you have fluid in your ears or if you have built up ear wax, that can cause an obstruction in your ears. Actually makes it so that you can't hear very well. Sometimes it is a temporary thing where it is a hearing loss because of fluids or an ear infection. The second type is the type that I have, so that's a sensorineural hearing loss, and that's actually a problem with your nerve. So there's damage to your nerve that helps register the hearing to your brain. If you have that type, it is permanent hearing loss, and that can be caused from a lot of different factors. It could be genetic, so if one of your parents has that hearing loss, it can go ahead and transfer it to you, which is not the greatest. It can also be as a result from childbirth. If there's something going wrong in that process, that can happen too. And then if you have any sort of damage that has happened to that nerve, that can cause a sensorineural hearing loss. They don't really know how mine was caused, but surgeries can cause it too. They think that maybe it was from when I was born, but there's not really much evidence on what happened with me. A mixed hearing loss occurs when you have damage to both the outer and middle ear, and so that sort of has two different types of issues that you're going to have when you're trying to hear. And then the final type of hearing loss is a central auditory processing disorder. So that's when you have had some sort of damage as well, and it's something that affects a sound that you're listening to. Another question that I get asked a lot is, what does your world sound like? It's really hard to describe what that sounds like, but it's basically a lot of muddling and normal sounds that you would hear, like a fan going or the furnace turning on, things like that. That is something that I just don't hear. So now that I've gotten used to it, I don't notice it as much, but I definitely hear sounds. Before it was pretty silent. So if I was just like sitting on the couch, hanging out, I wouldn't hear normal sounds and creaks that happen in a house. And so when I first started hearing those with my hearing aids, I like freaked out. Like, I'm not even joking. I went crazy because I was like, what's that? Someone's breaking into the house. I don't know what's happening. And I think that it's really hard to sort of get used to those sounds that you're just not able to hear. But overall, it was pretty silent. And when I was out in public and there was a lot of noise happening around me, I would hear just a bunch of like muddled noise, and I never could make out people's conversations. So for instance, when I'd go out to dinner with people, if someone was eavesdropping on the table next to us and saying like, oh, do you hear those people, what they're talking about? I legitimately could not hear any of that. Like, if I'm in a loud noise setting, it's really hard to hear just even the person that I'm facing. I have to lip read a lot. And so when I was out in public, if people were eavesdropping and trying to talk about people behind us that were talking about something, I literally heard nothing but it's kind of like you're underwater. Like, it's really hard to describe what it's like, but it's almost like you're underwater when you're in a big crowd. And on one-on-one conversations, it wasn't too bad for me. My family speaks really loud, so that helped a lot. But if I was talking to someone, difficult to listen to them. For me, it was really hard for me to focus on more than one sound at a time because I really had to pay attention to the sound that I was trying to interpret and understand. Otherwise, I would just get so confused and it would give me a headache. So I would say that my hearing loss, it's just there's a lot of different factors that go into the sound. There's a lot of great resources online if you're interested that will show you what it's like to have different types of hearing loss at different decibels of loss. So that is all the questions that I'm going to be answering for you today. If you think of any other questions that you'd like me to answer in a future hearing loss video, go ahead and leave a comment below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be having a lot more that I'm doing. I'm going to be doing DIYs on this channel, more unboxings, more hearing loss videos, and a bunch of other stuff that I'm really excited about. So don't forget to join my fam and subscribe down below. See y'all next time.